Alright everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Kaminski, I'm a guitarist from the UK, and today I'm going to attempt to put Periphery albums in some sort of tier list. Obviously this is my opinion, your list might completely differ. You might have opinions like you completely hate the Clear EP or the new album's your absolute favourite. If your list differs from mine, let me know in the comments below, because I think it's really fun and it's interesting to hear your stories, like the reasons why. It might be that the first time you saw Periphery, maybe they played a specific album and that means a lot to you. I know, there's been periods of my life where I've listened to albums and you get an attachment to them. So anyway, I can go on for ages as to the meaning of these albums. As we go, I'm going to give you my reasoning and my opinions on the albums. So let's dig right in. So you'll notice on the tier list, we've got 5 tiers. I might actually not use all of these. We're going to see how this goes. I've not actually rated or thought about this before, so we're going to kind of get my live reaction as we go. So just so you know, we're going to go release order, so chronologically as they release the albums. And this is just the albums of Periphery, so the Clear EP isn't on here, but that's all cool. Just in case I put like 2 albums on the same tier, the one closest to the right is going to be like the better of those 2, if they're on the same level. Hopefully you understand. So the very first album Periphery released was Periphery 1. And I think that is decent, personally. I think it's a really great effort from Misha. I think after listening to more and more Periphery, I think I can hear its flaws, but that's kind of what makes it special, right? It has such a unique sound. When they brought Spencer in, I think he didn't have that much time to really learn the tracks, and he had to get quite hasty vocal takes down, so I don't think he sounds as polished as the later albums, and obviously I think they've all improved as musicians and songwriters, which is amazing to see. I think that's great. But some of the songwriting in here is really fun and amazing, and you can tell Misha was just like getting these ideas out of his head and like getting them down and finally putting them together into an album, which is really nice to see. And it is amazing that it did so well, but I'm going to put it as decent. I may change this as we go, but I'm going to leave it there for now. Second album they ever released is Periphery 2. I'm going to put this straight up there. 10 out of 10 Periphery. It just hit me at the time of my life where I was like super into guitar and like only guitar. So like learning as much stuff as I could, really getting into guitar playing and kind of digging into other bands that I'd not really heard of. Periphery was one of them. I'm putting this up here as 10 out of 10 Periphery because it was actually my first album I ever listened to from Periphery, like right when it came out. All the way back to when I think they were dropping songs on YouTube, and they used to have really long descriptions about the songs themselves written by Misha or Spencer or Jake or something. So that was really nice to see. So the songwriting on this album for me is just top. And the sound of it is just, it's not leagues above Periphery 1, but you can tell there's more polish. I think it was Taylor who produced this, certainly. I can't really remember who mixed this, but it sounds great. Spencer on here sounds miles better than he did on Periphery 1. I love Spencer's vocals anyway, so it's nice to hear him like really shine. Like Ragnarok's an amazing song. I love Masamoon as well. That last element where he goes from like the motif and then changes it into a darker harmony is sick. I mean, I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff, so I'm always going to love that. I mean, shout out to the first ever Periphery song I learned, Have a Blast. I've probably forgotten how to play it, but learning riffs from a different mind actually helped me expand on what I was doing on guitar. So like learning the first few riffs was like so weird compared to Metallica and Dream Theater that I had been learning, so that was really cool, and it means a lot to me. Again, it just hit me as I was actually going through college, and I just used to listen to it all the time when I was walking over from college, like, or heading into college, that sort of thing, and it just got me in the mood to get the day sorted. So yeah, top tier for me, 10 out of 10 Periphery is Periphery 2. So the next release chronologically from Periphery is Alpha and Omega. I'm gonna rate these independently. I know that they're technically a double, but I might end up putting them on the same tier, but let's see how we get on. So I'm going to do Alpha first because it's the first album out of the 2, and I'm going to put Alpha in outstanding. And again, this actually may surprise a few people because I think Juggernaut is kind of slept on, weirdly. I think it came out at an interesting time on the back of Periphery 2, and I don't think anyone was really expecting Periphery to do a concept album like this, but I tell you what, like, the songs and the riffs are actually on the simpler side, but I think they pushed themselves to just like different places with the concept and stuff. It's so dark and heavy sounding, and the production isn't actually my favorite, and the mix isn't my favorite either of Periphery's albums. We've yet to come to my favorite mix, but yeah. So the snare is super fat. It's quite a closed in mix. I love how up and in your face the bass is though. I think the bass sounds great on all of the tracks. And Spencer, once again, absolutely killed it, having to tackle this concept and the amount of little Easter eggs hidden in the songs, like how they weave together. It's just that sort of stuff that I've grown up with Dream Theater concept albums and all that sort of good stuff. So I'm always a sucker for that kind of thing, and once again it was like the next step for me on my Periphery journey from Periphery 2 when Alpha and Omega dropped. It was like the next things I was spinning a lot. So Alpha's up there on outstanding. I'm going to put Omega on mid-tier purely because I think Alpha has the stronger compositions on it. Obviously the two albums sound the same, have the same sort of like performances in terms of when they were done. And the production is similar, but I think the songs themselves on Alpha are stronger. I really like the title track, Alpha. There's just some other great riffs on there as well. But Omega's still amazing. I just think like there's some moments where I feel myself like forgetting what songs are on there. Like Omega's obviously an amazing track. I love the main riff. But there's just a few moments on there where I'm wondering like if it could have been like polished up a little bit more. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the album though. So yeah, mid-tier on Omega, outstanding for Alpha. Cool, so moving on. The next release from Periphery is Periphery 3. This album means a lot to me as well, actually. It's right on the cusp of when I was getting interested in everything that surrounded guitar playing, not just guitar playing. So I was actually learning to mix. I was learning how to get better sounding demos myself, and I was learning how to write songs rather than just riffs and solos. So this album helped me a lot, and I just love how natural the drums sound compared to Periphery 1, 2, and even Juggernaut. So with all of these albums, whether they're live track drums with sample reinforcement or just completely sampled drum libraries, I don't really mind. I don't think that should have any bearing on whether you like a mix or not. But the overall sound of Periphery 3 is just killer in my opinion. I just love how open the snare sounds especially. It's got this massive brightness to it, but just sits in the mix perfectly. So I'm actually going to put it in 10 out of 10 Periphery. I just love this album. I love Absalom. I love Habitual Line Stepper. I love Prayer Position as well. Like there's so many good moments in there. And once again, I love how like loud the bass is. Like it's such a nice sounding bass. I mean, Nolly's always going to have a nice sounding bass, right? And he has on every single album. But this particular album, it's just the quirks of how mixes come together I've come to learn, like the drum sessions and how they interact with the bass and the guitar tones at the time that they had with maybe they were trying a different cab compared to last records or something like that. It just came together in a new way for me, and I think with Spencer once again like stepping up his vocals, like the dude's insane. It all just like was perfect in my mind. So I know some people don't really vibe with Periphery 3, which is fine as well, of course it is, but for me 10 out of 10 Periphery. Alright, only 2 albums left. Periphery 4, obviously Reptile's a great song, I love it, but I think there's some songs on here that I find myself not really vibing. Like I've tried and tried time and time again to get into songs like Church Burner, but I just can't really do it. I struggle to kind of, maybe it's like too heavy for me or something, I don't know, but I can listen to usually any style of music, but I just think the drum parts and everything doesn't really glue. It's like 80% there for me. I think it just needed a bit more refinement. Maybe with how the riffs interacted with the vocals and the drums. It's all a bit chaotic for me. That's probably what they were going for, and if that's the case, they fucking nailed it. So, well played to them. There's just a few more songs on there that I don't find myself gravitating towards, like Crush is one that I could kind of skip over. But on the flip side of all of this, there's a few like absolute bangers in there, like Garden in the Bones. The very first moment that it comes on, like the mix of everything is just immense. Like the way that Nolly mixed the snare on this record is like, I'm a massive fan, to be honest, because it's not only the tone and how it was tuned and how it interacts with the room sound, but I think it might have been when he started using transient designers, or at least tape saturation, to soften off the attack of the snare, which if you listen to that song, it's really apparent, and it just lets the snare kind of have a softer bloom, and it's a really, really pleasing thing to listen to. So Nolly, as always, thumbs up on the mix, mate. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pop it on Outstanding. I think it's close to 10 out of 10 Periphery, but just because of those 1 or 2 tunes, I don't feel like it can be there like Periphery 2 and 3, because for me at least, like Periphery 2 and 3, every single song I can put on, I'm like, yes, I love this. I am 100% about this vibe. But yeah, there's just a few songs on Periphery 4. Maybe they were experimenting a bit more with like the fat low tune snare on Church Burner, and the more electronic stuff like Crush. Absolutely don't mind it usually, but I think from Periphery, I'm just used to having big bangers, I think. Absolutely fair play to them. They killed it with this album overall. And Spencer, once again, killed it on the vocals. Satellites has got my favourite performance of him ever. Like that very last moment where he just hits something insane like an F5. I don't even know what the note is, but it's super high and there's so much power behind it. I don't know how you do that, I can't sing, but it sounded so good. Just a quick note, like Periphery, speaking of Satellites, that's the thing with these Periphery records, right? They all have amazing album closers. So like Race Car is insane. Masamoon I love because of like the crazy breakdown ending. And then Periphery 3 has Loon, which is actually one of my like lesser listened to songs, but I still really like it because it's actually Periphery taking a bit of a slower backseat and allowing themselves to do so, which, I mean, I know when I write songs, I always want to go 10 out of 10 riff heaviness, sort of grooviness sort of thing. So to actually rein it in and have that compositional restraint, I really appreciate. And then the same goes with Periphery 4. Satellites is a killer tune. It sort of plays with the idea again with that restraint, but then it goes massive towards the end. And yeah, like I was saying, Spencer goes insane on the vocals. So yeah, Periphery 4 is an outstanding album for me. And now it comes to the most recent release as of recording this video, which is Periphery 5. So I am going to put Periphery 5 once again on Outstanding, and I'll explain my thinking. Once again, I love the album. I think it's got some great tunes on there. Wildfire is probably my favorite. I think Mark in particular shines on this album. He's got some real standout moments with his general approach to guitar riffs. Is such a signature sound, like the way he constructs arpeggiated chord lines within riffs. I think it's really refreshing to hear, and it's so obvious even in a band with 3 guitarists. It's like, oh yeah, that's a Mark riff, and that's the goal, right, of any guitarist, to have an identifiable sound, and he killed it. So yeah, fair play to Mark. Misha, again, as always, kind of like at the helm of things, I'm sure, steering the direction. I love his orchestral moments. I'm getting into orchestral arranging myself, so I really appreciate those interludes that stitch the songs together. I'm always for that, and I'll always be listening to that sort of stuff for my own inspiration. So nice one. So you're probably thinking, well, this all sounds great, why is it not 10 out of 10 Periphery? But there's just like a few moments in there, like Dracul Grass, I was thinking I wanted a little bit more for some reason. I wasn't really completely on board with the harmony, I suppose. I don't know why. It kind of like goes between this, I could be wrong, but because I'm not listening to the song in like a week or so, but I think there's moments where it goes between minor and major. But I did enjoy the callback to Atropos, which was fun, and that is another good tune as well as Wildfire. I love the callbacks to Juggernaut because obviously I rate those albums quite highly as well. So Wildfire taking that main motif from one of the tracks in Juggernaut and turning it into a chorus, I'm always going to appreciate as like a budding composer myself. I suppose the very final reason why it's not quite 10 out of 10 Periphery for me is just like, I was left wanting a tiny bit more out of the mix. I don't know why, and I don't really know what it was. It sounds great. It sounds immaculate, you might even say. Just as every Periphery record does, but I just think it's that attachment that I have to the mixes of Periphery 2 and 3 that when I chuck those on, they just sound like a place and time to me. Let me know if like any of you feel that as well about certain albums. When you hear them, it's like it takes you back to like 5 years ago, or takes you back to a place and time that you were. So it's completely subjective, right? Because if you listen to Periphery 5, the mix is balanced, everything sounds super high production, the drums sound natural like Periphery 3 but have more of that edge that they did from Periphery 4 and that like fatness. Spencer killed it again, but yeah, that's just the fun thing with what albums mean to people, and that's why I've popped it on the outstanding tier instead of 10 out of 10 Periphery. So that was my Periphery tier list. Let me know if you agreed with what I thought, and let me know if you disagreed with what I've popped on my list. Maybe yours looks completely inverted. I'm sure some of you are going to be like, no way can you put Periphery 1 all the way as decent. I'm going to do loads of more videos in this kind of style. Let me know if there's a particular band that you want me to react to, and I'll give them a listen. Like and subscribe and all that good YouTube stuff. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you in a bit.